Fake news and police helicopter cover-ups for October 31st. So throughout the day, they tried to do cover-ups that included the Cessna because I'm guessing that they did fabricate evidence on October 16th with the Cessna doing the circles because of the light changes and the fact that now we have a police copter Cessna that noticeably flies in the police copter lines and flies around like he's a police copter. So there were a few events today where the police copter and the Cessna were both involved at the same time. I think three most notable ones that I know of, and I think there was a fourth one in the park that I didn't record because there was a gardener with a huge generator. So the videos on my actual channel for today would be easier to look at because I narrate each event exactly, especially the helicopter in both of his evening events, because it's important because they had very compartmentalized cover-ups before and you could read each part of it, and they would try to sell certain things that would make no sense and that weren't required. So basically what they were doing is incorporating things that show like you can work backwards from it. It's kind of like how they have every plane like wave and shift and pulse and stuff, and then it's like, well, how did all of these planes are connected now? Even a jumbo jet's connected, and it's like, well, why is the jumbo jet there? Oh, well, there's a fire, and then you're able to work backwards from everything. So eventually I'd like to do an overview of all of these and show that you can work backwards out of all of it. But so today is like probably the third day that they've started to be more methodical in incorporating all the different pieces, and eventually soon I want to make a list for everyone, but I think everyone knows the list of damning parts already that show personal interaction. So one of the themes today is that they have done they've been doing the compartmentalized parts more smoothly, but at the same time they still use the same logic. Like if you fly this way, then flying the opposite way will cover it up. For instance, the other day they had the UN cover-up copter fly, and it was on a count. It went descend 2 3 4, descend 2 3 4. So today they have the police helicopter and it goes ascend 1 2 3, ascend 1 2 3. Or actually no, it went descend 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 4, descend 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 4. So it's like the opposite, and so there are things like that. So I'm gonna point it out, but it would be better to look at the actual videos for the narration. So I'm just gonna try to give an overview of some of the themes and the damning parts. So at 6:40 a.m. a Cessna flew across my roof, and in context, yesterday morning they flew a military helicopter by at 6:46 at 24191 to do a turn cover-up. So I figured that today they would try to beat me and do it early, so I got up a tiny bit earlier, and I just barely made it outside. I went straight outside at 6:38 a.m., and then a Cessna came over, so maybe they were going to do more, but I got outside early enough. So a Cessna flew basically in the 11 p.m. line, but kind of like the old June 30th route, and so I don't know if that was meant to be a police helicopter or not. And then at 9:35 a.m. in the 11 p.m. line, a police helicopter came by, and this part's important. He came by with a flashing spotlight, but I have a count. It sounds pretty lame on my video, but the count shows the cadence of the flash, and it's significant because yesterday it was they just shot it all over the place randomly, and then today they put this on a constant cadence and had it not moving, just straightforward, as if it was because of the weather. They're trying to like show the way and be like a safety beacon. But then in later events throughout the day, it turns on random every now and then. And same with the Cessna copter, they would turn it on and off randomly. And also there's personal interaction with the Cessna copter where he was on the roof at the night event and he was coming towards me, and I would have been able to record his headlight, and he shut it off because the starting point is my phone evidence, just like how they set the fire and then sent the jumbo jets down, and then my phone is tapped and broken, and then they tell the pilots where to turn, and then they turn their lights off. So it's all the same thing. And then so he flew across my roof though, and then went down the street. Probably, I think he crossed over 24092, the transformer fire also, but it was misty, foggy out. And then at 10:11 he went left to right if you're looking across the street in the copter pocket, and he flew through the center of yesterday's event. That's what I wrote. So he flew the copter pocket. He went a little farther out, so closer towards Jeronimo, and that was like the center of the part where he was doing the ascend descend circles and where he spent most of the time, and then when he switched places with the Cessna. So he went right through it, and part of that is that, oh, well, that's part of our regular routine, and then so everything can be accounted for. So if there's an incident, say like on an intersection tomorrow, like Trabuco Marguerite intersection, then they will fly through that the next day and then say, oh, well, that's part of his routine split route. And so then they can account for all the events on the split route, and they can say, oh, well, one time he dropped a sandwich or he was taking a call, and that's why he did circles there. And then they try to do variations of that and say either hover or fly really slow accounts for the same thing, so, but it doesn't. And then at around 12:30, the helicopter was in the park, and I heard it, but there was a gardener with a massive generator on Olivera Street. So I went down to Solero Olivera to look, and I couldn't see the helicopter, but there was an incident shortly after at 12:51, and I think it might have been the same exact thing. So the at 12:51, the helicopter, what I thought was the helicopter, but it wasn't. It was a plane. So it was going left to right if you're looking out into El Dorado Park, so going down the park. And there was helicopter sounds though. So, and I know the helicopter sound, it was confirmed. The problem was the plane, because it wasn't moving just like a helicopter. So it was that thing where they throw sound. And when my first video, I was like, oh, that's the copter. No, it's not. It is. And so I corrected myself and then explained what I was thinking so people would know that I didn't mix it up. And it couldn't have been the copter because of the motion, the smoothness of some of the drifts and stuff. I know how the copter works. It has like I don't know how to explain motors and engines and aircrafts, but it was like it has a chain drive. Like the helicopter doesn't move the way a plane floats. And so some of the smoothness of the compartmentalized parts were far too smooth and connected for a helicopter. And so I think they were trying to do the throw sound fabricate evidence thing, because I think they did the throw sound for the October 16th. And that's in context in the theme, because on the 17th, 18th, 19th, they were doing that and they were throwing sound. And they had the helicopter hiding in the pocket behind the two-story house with the Cessnas flying around. And so at 1:29, he flew right to left in the copter pocket, and he did a right turn at 24191 to cover up for the military copter turn. And he did a smooth ascent and a smooth descent, and he left on a right curve. So instead of going in a straight line, he was on a right tilt with a slight curve. And the ascents were slightly compartmentalized too, though. It would be like bump, 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 or bump, and it wouldn't just be like a continuous, like a normal person would fly if they were trying to actually go upwards. And at 1:45, he was going left to right, coming up behind the houses across the street and ascending on a left tilt, but going upwards and right. So it was tilted to the left, but he's flying upwards and right. And it was like he was trying to sell the fact that there's a hill there. And he went behind the two-story house, and then he came up onto the street, then basically crossing over like 24091, the opposite side of the street from 24092, and then he leveled out. He mounted the massive mountain, so then he started to descend, and that's when I was talking about earlier about the count. It was descend, 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 and so that just connects it to the other event, and then that event was connected to the UN copter doing the same count, and then they had the fake Cessna police copter doing the same count, descend 2 3 4, descend 2 3 4. So it's like the same thing. You can work all the way backwards to the whole thing. And so 247, he was somewhat going left to right in the copter pocket, and then he came up DESEO. So maybe from Jeronimo Cordillera, and then he turned and came up DESEO, and he made this part is the part that I wanted people to refer to the videos, because I narrate each piece, and there are a lot of cover-ups in it, and it's not that I can't point them all out. I need more time, and I also need to basically make a review of each small video, which I'm going to do. But so there's also one thing that I'm not sure of yet, and so the police helicopter is used to cover up all the events from all other aircrafts. So I think it might be that the turn that I'm trying to figure out why the police helicopter does a right turn on my roof or a left turn, and is because of the UN copter that was coming across the street and had a personal interaction with me that came over the 2-story house, and I recorded it, and then he turned left and waved his tail like, screw you anyways. So I think that might be it. But so the reason I'm saying that is because when he was at the end of the street, he did noticeable large left and right and left turns. But more significant, I think, in the recent context, because they're using the Cessna, is the spotlight. So he turned the spotlight on randomly, and it wasn't at the same cadence or anything like that as the morning, and it wasn't on a steady, straightforward shot. It was moving around, and then only when it was on, though, it would be like left, and then like later it'd be like, oh, right, and there wasn't even like that, like with beats or time. It was just random. And so then he also, throughout these, the Cessna copter was near him. So this is another event where the Cessna copter was near him. And then he cut behind the 2-story house and went down the helicopter pocket towards Jeronimo Cordillera. And then he went out beyond Jeronimo Montilla intersection. And then the Cessna copter was there from 2:55 till 3:13, flying around, doing his spotlight all randomly. And it was really ridiculous. And then I ran out of storage space, and so then they sent the military helicopter right then. So I deleted one of the Cessna copter videos, and the military helicopter came and did the turn going left to right in the copter pocket behind 24191, and then he did the same thing, descend, 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 descend. And so he did the same beat as everyone else. So now you have a military copter, a Cessna, a police helicopter, and supposedly a civilian doing a cover-up for a UN copter, all doing the same movements in the same line somehow. I don't know, that's a mystery. And so at those events at the end of the street, though, if there's many things involved in it, there's the return where he chased me back to my house for the apps and at the 11 p.m. line, and some of the other stuff. So the spotlight's significant, the turns, the descents, the ascents, and the speed, the slow down and speed up. Okay, and then so at 3:27, he came up the park, and he made a left and went out over 24092. And then he had random spotlight flashes, and then he stalled on 24092, which is equivalent, I guess, to doing a half-hour power circles. And then he went down and out over Adelanto and exited down near Jeronimo Alicia intersection. At 6:23, the second I walked inside, because it's Halloween, I came into the backyard, and then he flew up the park with all of his huge white flashers going on, and the police plane was out for this entire time. This is the event I was talking about where the police plane shut his headlight off, but he was flying all around as if he was a helicopter. He was hitting the same lines. He was doing U-turns at the 2-story house and pretending to do ascents over the 2-story house and the tree and up the hill. And so he also was doing counts on his ascensions and descensions. And then at 6:37, the police helicopter came right to left, and he did a smooth turn like the military copter, in the military copter turn cover-up. So he was going right to left, and so his turn was of a larger angle. Like he took a lot more space. Basically, he turned from Jeronimo Alicia intersection to Jeronimo Montilla instead of doing it sharper. And so it was wider, and he turned a bit on the opposite angle of each one. So as he was coming up, he was on a tilt, and so he kind of changed all the variables a little bit. But when they do it, it's like when they pretend like they're spotlighting. They project that they're doing it, so it looks stupid. No one would do it like that. They're projecting, and so it's, I don't know, I said before, maybe that's how the court works, and you have to do certain things for the court. But then the next day they stopped doing things so compartmentalized. So I don't know, it might be just that they do it that way. And then so the police Cessna copter was flying all around then for the rest of the night, and he would turn his headlight off when he was near me. And so that's that.